Hello everyone, my name is Jane Dean. Welcome to my channel. As you can see, we moved our coffee table here now, and it's extremely heavy. I can't even push it with my back. When we just moved in, we had the coffee table as our TV stand because we were still sorting things out. Now we have a TV stand, so our coffee table is in its right place. So because I can't sit here really comfortably, well, I can, but I feel like it's just a little off. I'm gonna be doing the videos at my desk like I've been doing all my previous videos. So it's been a little while since I've made the K1 visas. I've been making videos about my au pair year, if you want to go check that out. But I finally came to America. I'm here now, and I want to give an update about what happens in the 90 days after you came to the United States. So I firstly want to say congratulations if your interview for your K1 visa was approved and you finally got it. For some people, it might have taken a long while, and it really is a step in the right direction. So when you enter the United States on that visa, they give you an entry stamp, and on that entry stamp also it says for how long your K1 visa is valid. In that time, you have to get an actual American marriage certificate. Well, I actually started planning my wedding before I even went for my K1 visa interview because I knew there will be so little time to plan a wedding. 3 months just isn't enough. So I started a Pinterest page like a year ago, and I had the date and everything, and then about 6 months before I started actually reaching out to vendors and things. But when I got to the States, it was much easier because I could actually call them, because back in South Africa it would have cost a lot to call people, so I've just been emailing. But by then I already had a big list of things sort of ticked off, and I just had to minimize things, get a little more things. But I already had my wedding dress, I had top 3 venues and a place where the place where it will be, and stuff like that. So I would recommend that if you do want a wedding, that you start early. Even when you don't know if you're gonna get that visa, you can still at least reach out to people and have a top 3, or just get that date, because when you reach out to people, they reserve the date until you actually book with them, and that will just make your life so much easier when you do come into the States. The wedding would have fallen just outside of the 90-day period because I always wanted it on June 30th, and that's just how it worked out. But we did plan to get the marriage certificate beforehand to at least get my stuff rolling, because there is a long wait period still after you get into the States before you actually can start working, before you get your social security number and all that stuff. So I entered in April, the United States, and we got married in May, just in court. We got the license the Friday, I believe, and when I picked up the license, I scheduled for a court session. It all happened within, I would say, maximum 2 weeks, but I believe it was a week and a half. It's really quick to get the license and to get married, but make sure you don't just have the license, that you have the actual marriage certificate. You can actually start filling out the forms even before you have your marriage certificate, because the only thing you need is the date of the marriage. So if you know on which date it will fall, you can fill it out, and then you only need a copy of the marriage certificate for proof of marriage. But all the rest of the form you can definitely start filling out, and I would recommend start on it as soon as your K1 visa is approved. Start filling it out and saving it on your computer, and then because it took me about 3 days to get it perfectly filled out and get all the evidence and things together. It was a long form, and I would definitely recommend starting it as soon as possible. Make sure you can get that sent in early. I can't highlight it more. The earlier you can do it, the earlier your life will start falling in place, the earlier you can get on with stuff. So I actually went to the Social Security office right after I got the marriage certificate, and I went to see if I can get a social security number, but they won't give you one unless you have work authorization from the USCIS. So after you have your marriage certificate, you could finish up your forms and get it sent in. So the form you need to fill out is the I-485F. It's your application to register as a permanent resident or adjustment of status. This needs a lot of copies of birth certificate, the marriage certificate thing, and it also, again, you have to fill out financial support forms, the I-864, and that has its own evidence attached to it too. And then how I have heard most people do it is they file for their employment authorization with their application to register for permanent resident, because then you don't have to pay extra. You get that fee off, and it's just easier to send one thing in. But you can also do it as soon as you enter the state so that you can work for the 90 days, but it's only valid for the 90 days. So you'll have to apply again. So that's more for people who really needs help financially, I'd say. But because me and my husband, we don't really need that, I just didn't do it. So the USCIS website where you get those forms, I will add the link again down at the bottom, just like I did with the other videos. And every form has its own instructions. And with these, they say clearly how to fill the things out and what evidence you need. It's not like the K1 visa interview where you don't really know how they want things compiled and things. This is really straightforward. If you follow that to a T and you read it carefully and you have someone else read it too, and you sort of see what you made of what they said you have to have and what the other person said, and you see if it joins, if it's the same, then you're definitely have all the evidence you need. We didn't use a lawyer. We don't think it's really necessary. If you can read, you can do it easily. So I made a little index after I filled it out and had all my evidence. And my index, I'll read it to you. It says Form I-485F, Form I-864, Form I-765, basically. And so I have those three forms behind each other. The application to register for permanent residence, I have a photo attached to that one, and I also have a photo attached to the work authorization papers. And then behind those three forms, I have attachments. So the attachments is everything that isn't forms from the USCIS, that's your own stuff, where the other three was what I got from their website and what I had to fill out. So I compiled all the evidence that the instruction pages said I needed for these forms. I made a compiled list and I put in all that evidence. So the evidence I have is a copy of my passport, a copy of my birth certificate, a copy of the K1 visa page in your passport, and I also made sure that that copy included the stamp they stamped of when my entry date is and how long it's valid for. My most recent I-94. This you can find on the I-94 website. It's basically a whole compiled list they have of all your entries and outgoings into and out of the United States. Yeah, they wanted that. I believe that one said if applicable or if you have it. Some of these might not apply to you because I have been here on a J1 visa and there was extra things they needed from people who was here on a J1 visa. You might not need all that. And then I also don't have any kids or any prior marriages, and with that you have to obviously have more forms, and I'm not going to touch on that because I don't have the experience with that. But on that instruction page, you will clearly know what you need. So everything I have may not be everything you need, and you may need more stuff than what I had, or you might need less stuff than what I had. This is just sort of a skeleton. So the I-94, I don't think everyone, if you don't have it, you don't need to add it. Copy of the I-797, that is the notice you got that they received your initial application. Everyone should have this. That is this notice that has, it says notice of action. It has when it was received and that it's just an approval notice and the date and everything. Yeah, they wanted a copy of that. And then a copy of the marriage certificate. Obviously, this applies to everyone. Then I needed to give a copy of my previous DS 2019. That's basically a form that said where I lived in the United States previously and that I had work authorization. That is only necessary when you've had a J1 visa previously. And then I also added my previous J1 visa page and entry stamps. That is for them to know that you actually came in when you were supposed to came in and that you went out when you were supposed to go out. Because if you made a mistake with your J1 visa already and you overstayed or did something wrong, they can kind of categorize you into a certain group of high risk or not high risk. That's what I believe. Then what everyone needs to have is the DS 3025. That is your vaccination records. If you did this in your home country like I did in South Africa, you get this DS 3025. But I think there are some people that didn't do the medical records in their home country, and you will need other forms for your medical, excuse the cats. You will need other forms for your medical stuff and you will have to get it done here. Then for the financial support stuff, you need tax returns of the person who's going to support you financially, a W-2, and a copy of the birth certificate of the sponsor. And that is basically all the evidence I supplied. So the application to register as permanent residence and the work authorization, I sort of compiled their evidence because they both needed the same things, like a copy of a passport and a birth certificate. I believe was the only things that I needed for the employment authorization, and the photo. I did add a photo, its own little photo. So that was the packet I sent in to the USCIS in my 90 days, right after I got married. I didn't do anything fancy to it. I had an index. Oh, and I attached you have to pay like $1,000 some. It's a little pricey, this one, but you have to pay that amount for the application to register, and then also a $25 biometrics fee. So we did it in one check and we just added it right at the front. I added it like on top of the index, and then I had my 3 forms and I had them all paper clipped. I didn't staple any of them together because I know it might make it difficult for them to read. And then I had a paper that said attachments and just all the evidence. So my husband and I, we got married about 3 weeks after we sent that in. It took about a week and a half to get to them. So when we came back from our honeymoon, we had another 797C notice of action from the USCIS that said they received this application. And we also got a notice for the application for employment authorization. They came separately. So the first notice just says that they received it, and a letter that says when the appointment for the biometrics will come soon. This isn't the letter to say that you have an appointment. And then the work authorization just says your eligibility category and a reminder of some things that didn't apply to me. And then I didn't wait to get this. They were all together because we were gone for 2 weeks. So somewhere in that 2 weeks, all of this had to come in the mail. But then I had a letter that said where my biometrics appointment will be, when and what time. So they get the closest USCIS support center to you and they schedule your biometrics appointment for there. So the biometrics appointment, you need your passport or some other identification and the letter that says you have your appointment. That's all you need. You go in there. It took almost less than 10 minutes. I went in at 20 to 10 and I came out at 10 to 10 and my appointment was at 10. So it's ridiculous. You go in, they take a photo of you, they take your fingerprints, and you sign something. That's it, and then you leave. And I signed the appointment letter, so you have proof of it too, and I got it back. And that's how far I've gotten. I've done my biometrics now, so now I'm awaiting. I believe I'll get more stuff in the mail. I am actually a little bit clueless now. I'm not sure what will happen next, but yeah. So just a quick recap. When you enter the United States, you have 90 days to get married. You don't have to have a wedding, you just need that marriage certificate. So start filling out your forms, because you don't need a lot of information on marriage certificates itself. You can start filling it out before you're married. When you have your marriage certificate, you can make a copy of it, fill in the little details that you did need of it, and send it in straight away. Try to send in your work authorization with your application to register for permanent resident, because then you get that money that you have to pay for the work authorization off. You don't have to pay for it when you send it in with the application to register for permanent resident. Then relax. You can expect it to take between 3 to 4 weeks for you to get that notice that they did receive it and to get your biometrics appointment. And when you did that, prepare for your biometrics appointment by having identification ready, the form they sent you ready, and go early. Make sure you're there early. It will be about 10 minutes and then you're done. And then the next wait begins. I am excited to see how quick it will take for anything else to arise, for the next steps to come. I want to start studying and working. I want to get that social security number and like the permanent resident card so I can not sit here anymore for so long. But I've learned that you have to be patient, and the next video will be whenever I get next results. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope that everything is going well with your visa. Relax and breathe. Everything will work out. And I'll see you in the next videos. Bye-bye.